Hey, good morning and welcome back to Questioning Sense with me, Matt. Oops. Right, how are you guys doing? I hope you're well. I'm exceptionally well. I've just come back from a lovely week's holiday with my family. We were due to go to Portugal, but obviously with the current situation, international travel is a bit risky, especially with the UK and quarantine and things like that, and it would involve, you know, taking lots of unpaid time off work and stuff like that when we got back. So we had to cancel our trip to Portugal, a place we absolutely adore. And we went down, we hired a house and we went down to Kent. We were on the coast in Ramsgate and Broadstairs and places like that. And thankfully, at that particular time, the UK chose to have a heat wave. So it was awesome. We had lots of fish and chips and long walks along the beach. And good thing was, it wasn't actually too busy down there. We were slightly nervous that we were going to get there and there'll be hordes and hordes of people, but it wasn't the case. So that was good. Found some nice pubs. We ate out a lot. The UK are doing this eat out to help out thing at the moment. So you get quite a lot of money off your food Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, lots of eating out, lots of beer, quite a bit of wine and lots of chilling. So it was a really, really good time. And obviously because it was so hot, I got to wear burger mask, an awful lot. Anyway, we've come back and the weather isn't quite the same. It's not in the 30s every day, but it's still quite nice and warm. So today we're going to do a review of one I've been meaning to do for a while, and it's a niche fragrance that you don't hear that much about. And it's this one here. And this is called Noir D'Orient, and this is from a company called Evody. Now, this is the only fragrance of theirs that I've tried. I don't know too much about them, but this was recommended to me by a couple of people, and then a bottle came up very, very cheaply. As you can see, there's a bit missing, and I've worn this quite a bit, so it's mainly me that's been using it, and I got this for a really, really good price. I think it's around the £100 mark if you buy it full retail, and it's a good price because it's a very niche perfume. Now, it came out in 2014, and as I say, I'm relatively new to this one. What I will say though, the presentation is pretty good. I like the look of it, but the cap, which is solid wood and really rather nice, doesn't fit that well, unfortunately. But it's I mean, I don't really travel with it or anything like that, so it's you know, it's no biggie to me. I've just got to be careful and remember not to try and pick it up by the cap, which you generally shouldn't really do with most perfumes. So what we'll do is I'll have a look at them. We'll talk a little bit about Evody first. They came out, I think, in 2008, and it's a mother and daughter team. The nose behind it, I believe, is Regine Drion or Drouin, and the other lady behind the brand is Celine Vasseur. Now, if they're lucky enough to see this wonderful video, I will apologise now about the awful pronunciation that I've used there. For someone like me who has French family, who spends a lot of time in France, it's a language that evades me, so do apologise. Okay, so this came out in 2014, and it's a spicy, what they would class as an Oriental, I suppose, a very nice fragrance. So let's talk about the notes. At the top you have incense and you have cinnamon, then you have cloves, then you have rum and exotic spices, and then in the base you have driftwood and patchouli. So first thing off the bat, this reminds me of two perfumes that I hear an awful lot about, which then surprises me why I don't hear so much about this one. It reminds me of a cross between XJ or Xeroth's Ivory Root, which I'm a big fan of, and Towers L'air du Desert de Moroccan, or LDDM. If you kind of blended those two, you would almost end up with something like this. I think it's probably a little bit, it's not as exciting as LDDM, but it's certainly probably to a lot of people a little bit more wearable. So that kind of makes me, again, wonder why I don't hear so much about it. It performs in a very similar way to Ivory Root. It's a little softer than I would possibly like, but I think that may be weather related. I think it might be a little bit louder when you know, the weather cools off and we're in sort of winter, because it's probably really a winter perfume. I like it, and because it's soft, it doesn't become oppressive when it's hot or warm. I wouldn't wear it when it's super hot, but it's a nice, soft, spicy, interesting, sweet perfume. There's no pepper note listed in the notes, but it is quite peppery. And you get the opening is all about the cinnamon. Cinnamon is kind of like a bit of a star player in this, so you're going to need to like cinnamon. If you like a sweet, woodsy, cinnamon-based fragrance, this is well up your street. The cloves, I can't really pick out too much as cloves. It just sort of, they kind of just fall into the spiciness of it all, which is very nice. And then it becomes very woodsy. Now driftwood, I don't really know, you know, any wood could be driftwood, I would imagine. I'm not entirely sure, but it does kind of veer towards a little more of a sandalwood style base. So it's, again, it's a spicy sandalwoody type fragrance. The rum is very clever. It gives, well, it lets its presence be known, shall we say, but it's not overly boozy. You do get a slight hint of booze with it, but you would not class this as a particularly boozy fragrance. It's a really enchanting one. I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll spray a little bit more now. I am wearing it, obviously, but I'll spray a little bit more for the purposes of the review. Sprayer is excellent, but as soon as that hits your skin, it's that incense that comes out. It's that cinnamon that comes out. They're the two notes that you're picking up. But the incense is a soft incense. It's not sharp or harsh, or, you know, with darker fragrances that are really, really incensey. It's not like that. This is, although it's a dark wood vibe, it's not a particularly dark fragrance. It is a little darker than Ivory Root. Ivory Root seems to be like a lighter version, if you like, and I know using sort of the description of light and dark is quite difficult to transfer that to your thought pattern of fragrance or scent. But if you smelt the two side by side, you would certainly say that the Evody is darker than Ivory Root. If you're a fan of Ivory Root, you will like this, but again, I'm not sure. Unless you really, really love that genre, I don't know if you're going to need both. Now, they're not clones of each other and they don't smell alike side by side, but they both do the same thing. They both take you on a little bit of an exotic journey. So, you know, because both of these fragrances are quite expensive, I wouldn't expect people, you know, to buy both unless you really are into that genre. And I would also recommend certainly that you give this a sample, because I personally think this is a stunning fragrance, but because of the, you know, the notes and the way that it is, if you're not a massive fan of those sort of spicy woody fragrances, this might not be for you. So I would hate you to buy a fragrance that you don't like. So certainly try and get a sample from it. Now, I don't know, apart from the fact that Evody have got like 24 perfumes in their collection, they've been around for a while, I don't know too much about them, and I can't say I've seen them out and about. So, you know, they could well be in retail stores, or, you know, sort of your more, you know, your Selfridges, your Harrods and that sort of thing. They may well be there. I'm not entirely sure, because, you know, up until this came up, I'd never heard of it. Now, when a friend of mine put his bottle up for sale, which is where I got this from, I didn't know anything about the perfume, but somebody else messaged me and said, look, snap it up, this is so you. And because it was cheap, I was quite happy to take a blind buy on it. And I'm really, really glad I did, because this is a lovely fragrance. The opening is really exciting. It's very exotic. But then when it dries down, it's just such an easy perfume to live with. I'm going to wear this for work an awful lot, because it will easily last me through a shift at work. Now, when it first arrived, I was slightly concerned about the performance on it. And I was thinking, God, I don't know about this. But after a couple of wearings, and certainly wearing it in the heat as well, or warmer weather than it's probably designed for, it lasted all right. I could easily get a work shift out of this. So that's 7 or 8 hours. So that's fine. You know, that's really, really good. And what I like about it is it doesn't smell like anything that you're going to get designer-wise, or certainly no designers that I've smelt of. There's a tiny, maybe a little hint of Zadig and Voltaire's This Is Him about it. But this is a lot nicer, and I'm a big fan of This Is Him. So there is that kind of vibe to it, you know, that sort of peppery, vanilla-y thing. Vanilla does kind of come into this a little bit in the dry down. It doesn't have vanilla as a listed note, but you do get a kind of like a vanilla-y vibe. It could be some tonka just in there to help everything flow so nicely. But it's a really, really good wear. The patchouli is quite interesting, because as this dries down, it becomes like it sort of flirts a little bit with chocolate. I don't actually get a massive chocolatey vibe from it. I do get a slight hint of chocolate coming from the perfume, which I really like. So you are talking about something that's kind of drifting into the world of the gourmand. So you know, it's no freshie, put it that way. It could be possibly considered a gourmand. I think I've got a lot more fragrances that are a lot more gourmandish than this, that aren't particularly classed as gourmands. So yeah, it may be a little bit too gourmandy for some, but I don't think it is. It certainly, well, it kind of goes down in that direction, but I wouldn't class this as a full gourmand at all. What I would say is it's a sweet spicy, interesting fragrance. This, I think, is designed not to fill rooms. I think this is one that certainly makes, you know, people around you will appreciate. Because of the performance on it, it doesn't fog anything out. It gives a modest sillage with fairly decent projection, not strong projection. This is an intimate fragrance. This is for people that are coming in close to you. If it was a little bit louder, you'd stop doing this all day, because whenever I wear it, I can't stop smelling it. It's just such a lovely fragrance. It's, you know, and what I like is the volume when it opens. It really punches out and then it dries off quite quickly, in fact very quickly, but it still becomes very intoxicating at both stages. So, you know, the dry down is beautiful and it slowly shows off the more complex notes in there. They become more interesting. The patchouli starts to really become quite noticeable. Whereas at the top, you've got the incense, the cinnamon and the rum. They're the real stars, and then it all kind of calms down. But it's one of the few fragrances I've got that's got rum in it that you wouldn't class as an ultra boozy fragrance, which again gives it another little angle. You know, it's another way for me to justify having it, basically. You know, it is very similar to a couple of fragrances, but side by side it's quite different. It's certainly not unique, but it's certainly very enjoyable. I don't know too much about getting this through discounters and things like that. Certainly keep your eye out for it in Facebook groups and things like that. That's probably going to be your best way of getting it. It's a really good frag, and I'm surprised I don't hear so much about it, because, you know, Ivory Root and LDDM are incredibly popular fragrances and they're often talked about. And I think this is a good way of getting that, because, you know, LDDM is probably, I think, one of the best priced entry niche fragrances out there. And it's not an entry niche fragrance. I think it's everyone gets to try it because everyone says how good it is, and it is a really good fragrance. I got Ivory Root before I tried it, so I do find that Ivory Root and LDDM quite similar. So as I have Ivory Root, I didn't need LDDM, although I would probably add it to my collection at some point. This is kind of falls into that world very nicely. It does remind me of both of them, but it's different enough for me to warrant owning it. If I had tried this before I blind bought it, I may not have bought it, because I think Ivory Root just does it a little bit better. But that's not to detract from Evody. If I'd tried the Evody before I'd tried this one, I'd have had this and not this. So again, it's, you know, it's horses for courses. It's down to which you prefer. So that's probably why you will need to sample it. A really good fragrance, great performance in terms of longevity. Not a big hitter, but a perfect one for the office. It's totally unisex, and I think it's one for the young thrusters, and it's one for us old grizzlies. You could, you know, anyone can wear this, everyone can enjoy it, but you have to be a fan of a semi-gourmandish, sweet, woodsy fragrance with some spices and some booze. So I think that's a pretty good summary. So listen, I hope you've been well. I hope your summer's been good, and I hope you didn't melt in the heat wave if you're in the UK, and if you're in the rest of the world, I hope you're staying safe, and I hope you're doing great stuff. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. As you can probably gather, I've been away for a week, so my reviews, I'm running way behind, and there's so many to get through. So hopefully what I'm going to try and do is get as many done as I can, and Rich can get editing and get them up and out for you guys to watch. So listen, thank you very much for your time. It's always appreciated. I hope you're well, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks, cheers, and bye.